think a lot of people are unaware of the fact that there's seven different kinds of diabolic influence. The first is infestation, where they infest houses or locations, inanimate objects, animals, as we see in Scripture, where they
Animals.
yeah, where they and we see that where Christ is about to kick them out of the demoniac, and they said, let us go into the pigs, and so they go in, they possess the pigs, and then they run the pigs. Of course, they can't help but destroy them. They run them into the sea there. So they can actually possess inanimate objects and things, and so that's pretty common. Not a whole lot, but a fair amount of my work is actually going and cleaning up places where evil things have occurred and the demons have gotten their foot in the door, and so we have to exorcise the place and clean it out. So there's a fair amount of that we actually have to do. And then the next one is ordinary diabolic influence. This is what everybody suffers. It's ordinary temptation. And the primary way that they tempt us is by putting stuff in our imaginations. So they'll put not just the image, but they can also put the perspective on the image. So an example I often use is, a wife wants to make her husband breakfast in bed because it's his birthday. And so she comes in, he's laying in bed, it's 7:00 in the morning. She comes in and says, "Dear, what time are you going to get up?" Because she's trying to time it in order to get this. And then what the demons do is once he hears that, what time are you going to get up, the demons can then they can skew the perspective on the thing. They can jade our perceptions of people and of things, and they do that. And then what he hears or thinks he hears, what he judges in that situation by their skewing his perceptions is, she just thinks you're lazy. Right. Rather than, and this is how they can actually destroy relationships. This is how they, and that in fact, in marriage, this is one of the ways that we're seeing as we're talking about families. That's always their first attack. They have to separate people psychologically first before they're ever going to get them to divorce. They have to separate them psychologically. And the way they do that is by skewing their perceptions. And then they can also move our emotions too. So they can kind of increase our emotional responses to things or cause emotions. And then as a result, it affects our judgment. So that's ordinary temptation.
Just go back to diabolic infestation. I mean, we talked about demonic influence on animals and humans. What about houses and buildings?
Yeah, houses. So I do a fair amount of exorcism of buildings. A lot of office buildings more recently, especially buildings where charitable activities are being done. People are just getting hammered. So like places that are working against abortion, or like there's one that I've been working with from time to time. They're actually trying to do a Catholic version of hospice where they're just not offing people, that overdosing and killing them to get rid of them. They're actually letting them go through a normal process of death. They're getting attacked. So, but houses too, usually there's, evil that's occurred in the location or in the house itself, which has resulted in the demons getting into the house. And then that's when you start seeing, stuff moving around and things like that in the house.
So the opening for a demon to enter a human, a building, a house, an animal, maybe not an animal, is sin. Correct?
That's correct. So it's either the particular person's sin. So a lot of people, about 50% of the people that come to us that are possessed, it's because of the sin that they committed. Or the other 50% is because sin has been committed against them. In locations, it's because somebody has done something particularly evil in a location, and as a result, the demons have gotten their foot in the door there. And so you have to go in. Sometimes finding out the history of the house can be very helpful, but you'll have to exorcise the place in order to get the demons out.
What are the most common sins they enter through?
Primarily occult activity, which we're starting to see a rise in. People engaging in witchcraft and Satanism, things of that in a particular location. Sometimes it can be something just as simple as one location that I had to address or deal with was it was a former lockdown for teenagers who had literally lost their minds. And so they would drug them up and put them in this place. And what got in there was, because of the things that were being done in that particular location, was a demon of flight. So you would walk in there and you'd get attacked like, I got to get out of here, was what people would explain. I just got to get out of here. And but the local bishop cleaned that place up pretty quick and without too much fuss. There was another building where it was a demon of anger had gotten in there, but it was connected to heavy pornography use in that particular location. But it was a demon of anger that got in. And so that took a little bit. And actually, that case was the first time I ran across what we call temporary possession, where the demon, the infestation in the location was so at such a level that he could actually attack people and actually quasi-manifest through individuals. And so you could literally stand, if everybody in the building was sitting in the same room, you could just look around the room and actually see there he is. And then, 10 minutes later, you see it's attacking this person over here. And it was just anger. You could just see the anger, their complexion would change and everything. So you could see him going from location to location, or from person to person. And that's actually one of the ways that we detected him, and we were actually able to. I don't know if I never was actually put on that case. I just noticed the detection and knew about it. I did a quasi-diagnostic of it, but it was. I don't know if it was ever gotten out of there. I don't know if they ever addressed it. So they get into buildings and stuff. I was actually in a hotel once where that. Didn't notice it when I first walked in, but then when I went to get to bed, the level of attack in that particular case was on the same level that it was in that building where the demon of anger and flights were. It was on that same level where the attack was so strong. And so I did do some prayers and some stuff to kind of keep my own particular room protected. I was able to sleep through the night. But because I don't know who the owners are, I could have done an exorcism over the whole place, but the problem with that is that the more stout the demon is, usually you have to go from room to room and exorcise every single nook and cranny of the place to make sure you get him out. So, which I've also had to do even in rectories, where bad things have happened in the rectories, and so you have to go in and clean it out.
Are there any specific sins you see them go through more than others?
The demons?
Demons.
Well, the sins they like to gravitate towards the most, because they're easiest to get human beings to fall into, are the sins against the sixth commandment, like fornication, masturbation, pornography, those types of things. Those are the ones that they tend to like to use because they're so easy to get us to fall into. And then from there, they'll graduate people to other sins and get them into stuff that's even more disordered.